It's like I had to sit on the sidelines like a lot of people because, like you said, I mean, Mojaves were $10,000, bumblebees were $17,000. If you could find an albino pied, it was $20,000, and I didn't really have that kind of money to invest. So you're right. I started off with those, but I always felt like the recessives were the way to go. You know, I didn't want to get in back then. I mean, you remember there was some crazy numbers going around with the codom stuff and a lot of stuff. I knew early on people were using ultrasounds, and I kind of had an idea. A lot of stuff was being produced pretty quickly. So I kind of stayed away from that and always decided just to stick with recessives. And, you know, as I made a little bit of money, then I'd jump into the pieds and then the clowns, just kind of keep working up. I always loved lavender. It was always one of my favorites. You know, I couldn't afford one at the time. I had to buy I started with a het male. I bought from, I think it was Brandon Bokey out of Texas, cool guy. And I bought that het male for $700, bred it to big normals I had, kept all those heads back, bred them back, and eventually created a nice group of females, you know. So it took me a while, but I always try to stick to the recessive stuff. My stuff's all recessive based for the most part, you know. We do have some other like GHI. I love GHI. We have it in, of course, lavender and hypo and ultramel, things like that too, you know. But
how far back does the GHI game go for you? I'm so curious.
I'm trying to think when I got that GHI.
How much was it, if you recall?
When I did a deal with Matt, and at the time I bought a pastel GHI and we did a cash trade and it was right around $6,000. So it was half and half, you know, because I didn't have all that money. So he was really cool. And at the time we were producing a lot of crystals, you know, at the time. So he wanted those. We did a great deal, met at a parking lot. So they were right around $6,000 mark. That one, you know, paid off good for me in the long run. Other things took a little bit longer. When I bought my first albino pied, I think I spent $4,000 for it, and it didn't breed at all for the first 2 years, you know, and I had double het females there and nothing. So eventually he did the third year. And when he did, we produced, I think, 9 that first year. So it worked out in the long run, but it took a little while because that's the only male that I had, which taught me another lesson about having a backup male. Don't let your whole season or that group rely on just one female or one male. Always have a backup male so you get something out of it. Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way that year anyway.
But what's the most common problem you run into when just going with one male? Like him just stopping after a while, or what's? I mean, like, because you're right, backup doesn't hurt. But like with your experience, what are some things you ran into by just running with one male?
Well, like with that one male, I assumed he was going to breed. He was up to size and he would definitely have the time. He just didn't breed. So, you know, I lost out. But if they're breeding consistently, you know, then I feel a little bit more comfortable. But it just depends. Like my lavender project, I have a lot of females for that. And I've got like an OD yellow belly leopard lab male first year, and he's breeding like a champ. But I'm still afraid to get rid of the het just in case he shuts down. You know, I'm just starting my breeding season. So I feel comfortable after February or March. If they breed consistently, then I'll move off with another male. But I still like to have a backup just because I don't want to miss out. You know, and I don't have a lot of different things, but I have a lot of the same things. So like we'll do a lot of lavender stuff this year. But I always like to have a male as close in, I guess, genetic potential as my primary breeding male, just to have as that backup, you know, just in case they shut down, you know, or if, you know, they start to lose some weight, then I'll just shift them out of the breeding group altogether and use another male. You know, I like to do that a lot too.
So I'm curious, George, back then, you know, did you do much different than you do now? And when I say like with your breeding regiments, like your temps, like the, you know, as far as ambient and all that, like, have you been running the same shit you've been running for a while, or have you been switching things up throughout the last
few years? Things I have switched up. I used to have a different schedule. I would always start breeding in like November. Now I start here in Florida in September, and we'll get fronts, and not even really cold fronts, just storm fronts. And I've noticed last year it made a big difference because we had more clutches last year than we ever did. So I tend to start a little earlier and I breed a little bit later. I used to shut down in March, April. This year I bred through most of the summer, and we picked up a lot of late clutches like that. In fact, just turned off my incubator about a week ago. So my incubator ran about 9 months last year, all my incubators. So I'm doing that differently. I'm strictly ambient. I have no thermostats. Everything's 82 to 85. So I've been running ambient temps a lot. And here in Florida, I'll open up my windows sometimes to let fresh air out. Yeah, it's great. I mean, where I'm at, it works for me. It may not work for somebody out in the Midwest, but it works good for me here.
I'm in the second best climate in the country, and that's San Diego.
There you go.
What beats us is you guys. What beats us that you guys have is the humidity. Your guys' humidity is just like. You don't got to do shit. Like literally,
you really don't.
Yeah, it's
No, I mean,
awesome.
even in like January, February, I have some big roll around gray Rubbermaid cans, and I'll just fill them up with water and move them in the building, and that's enough just to add a little humidity. But we never have shed problems. It's really good where we're at. We're lucky, So, but that's one thing I have done differently. I extended my breeding season now to, like I said, almost all year, and then all 4 events happen at the same time. We're getting eggs being laid, eggs hatching, breeding. And all the same week now, So it's my season is definitely kind of overlapped itself, I guess you could say.
Right. So let me ask you this, George. Other than the day temps you just said, what do you do at night? Do you do anything? Does it naturally go down, or what do you do for nighttime?
I just drop it down to about 82. That's about it. So 82 to 85. Yeah, and it'll stay
That
like
room's always at least at 82 is what you're saying.
Yeah, usually I'm not getting cooler than 82. Even here in Florida, I mean, if we get a cold night in the 40s, I've got enough heat in there. 82 to 85, pretty much year round. Yeah, for the most part. Yep. And
so,
it's pretty simple.
I mean, I've had plenty of breeders. Like I've had breeders in Canada, like Corey Woods. Shout out to Corey Woods. I've had Corey Woods on here who and I don't think he deliberately did that. He normally drops a little bit, but he deliberately didn't mean to drop it this low, but his shit went down to the 50s for like a week.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like he was concerned, but he actually had like one of the best seasons ever. But I'm just curious. Like I was wondering, are you somebody who drops like the temps down to the 70s or even 60s? Because chondro breeders do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's certain species that can handle that. You know what I mean? So I was just curious what, I can tell you what's always worked for my ball pythons for the most part is, nothing under nothing under like 80. You know what I mean? Like my room for the most part is consistently 80. And then naturally, like what you do, it'll get up to 84, 86, 87. The hottest we'll ever get is like 90. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's for like, probably 2-3 hours of the day. And then it drops back down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but then like here I have in this room, right? This room, I wake up in the morning, this room's like 68 degrees. I have Boega in here. I have chondros, I have emeralds. So, I mean, I don't know. That's why it's like, I feel like you can get away with fucking dropping temps if you want to with ball pythons, but it's like whatever works for you. You know what I mean?
Right. And like my system works for me here. Other places it may be a little bit different, but yeah, I'm pretty right around 82 to 85 pretty consistently. The baby room I'll keep just a little bit warmer, but for the most part, nothing really out of the ordinary. Like I said, have pretty mild temps here anyway, so it's not that difficult to maintain that.
Thank you for watching this week's Trap Talk clip. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, drop me a comment. And if you're looking for exclusive, non-release content here on YouTube, you're going to want to go down to the link and join the Trap Talk Patreon family. Once you become a part of the Patreon family, you get a link to the Discord, and then you also get tapped into all unreleased content. Thank you so much for all the love and support, and I'll catch you guys here next week. Cheers!